The following podcast is scheduled for one take.
One take.
And is brought to you as part of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. Making his way to the studio is SCWPro ring announcer Alex McCarthy. He's here to talk about his journey in wrestling, and we get a preview of SCWPro's battle lines. Take it away, oh honorable one.
The following podcast is scheduled for one take.
I think we're going to do two takes. Two takes.
I think so. Two.
Honorable
Two
Nick
takes.
Bull.
No, I'm here. Tonight, he wears black and white. He's not red all over. And he's going to be back in action on Saturday night. The one, the only, Chris Angle Stripes. Our
Not
other host.
confirmed.
You've heard of the CW. It's gone because this guy bought it and turned it into the CD, the CZ. The one and only, the Wizard CZ.
Ooh, yeah.
Most importantly, they call him AM for a reason because he's on all day, even early. The one and only, thank you for joining us, Scott County Wrestling, or SCWPro's ring announcer, Alex. I'm not related to Jenny McCarthy.
I'm not related to any of the McCarthys that you probably know, ironically. So,
and that's probably
thank you for having me. I mean, there's a story there, but so.
What are some famous
Welcome to the
McCarthys?
show, Alex.
Thank you. Jenny, Kevin,
Stripes. Yeah, Jenny.
Melissa.
Melissa McCarthy, yeah.
Yeah, not related to any of them.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way. Like CZ said, Alex McCarthy, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. I am Stripes. We got CZ, Nick Bull. How's it going, Nick Bull? Caught him at a perfect
As he takes
time.
a drink. Chug, 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 chug,
I
chug.
was taking a drink listening. I'm glad Alex is here. Alex, you're obviously a wrestling fan. You got nothing else to do on a Sunday night. You're here with three other.
Is he super choppy for anybody else?
He is. Nick, you're dying over there. I'm gonna take it over. I believe what Nick was trying to say. You got nothing better to do on a Sunday. You're hanging out with three other wrestling fans just like yourself. Let's roll right into what's that?
I'm just glad that the fruit baskets that I sent to you guys finally arrived, so you accept my bribes after that. The cash wasn't apparently enough.
The kids love the oranges.
Well, I don't know if you know this. I'm a really big dude, and I don't eat fruit, so I burned yours that you sent to me. Sorry. Should have been a chocolate basket. Let's just jump right in, Alex. I'm gonna ask the question we ask everybody off the start. What got you into wrestling as a fan, and then eventually as someone in the wrestling business?
So I don't have a cool story about how I got into wrestling because I legitimately don't remember not liking wrestling. My parents have a photo of me at like 9 months old in like a Hulk Rules like little sweatshirt and like doing the pose. And my aunt was like an MTV pro wrestling watcher, so she was kind of into it, and she was my mom's younger sister, and my mom and I lived with my grandparents and my aunt at the time, and so I just grew up watching wrestling and liked the theatrics of it, and liked the stories and the entertainment. And I remembered like so I knew pretty early that it like wasn't that it was a work, that it was entertainment, that it was a story. And then when I was probably about 10, when I figured out like, wait, it's someone's job to like write the stories and make the stories, that was like, I knew that was something that I wanted to do, because I'd already been doing that. Like,
For sure.
I remember being like going to daycare, and like the kids would be like, oh, you know, he plays by himself with the figures, and it's like, yeah, because if anybody else tries to, he'll yell at them, because like I had all the matches booked out on the floor, like set up who was facing who, and you know, I was telling stories. And I don't know, I've just always been fascinated by the stories of wrestling, so I've just from like preschool on just always been a big fan.
Now, you said from an early age you knew it was fixed.
Oh, work, yeah, entertainment.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
What
Angle? That's a bad word.
I'm just trying to make it, friendly here. What was that one time, if you could remember, that you knew it was entertainment?
I don't know that I necessarily figured out. I think like my mom thought that if I knew it was a work, that I wouldn't want to watch it anymore, and she was so against me like watching it that like she had to make sure I understood it, maybe, but it didn't really have an effect on me at all. Like I remember my parents like sitting me down like probably at like 4 or 5, and I don't really remember. It might have been the fact that like I remember having nightmares about the Undertaker coming out of the TV at like WrestleMania 9, like coming through the TV and like choking me out. Like, so that might have been when my parents explained to me that he was just a dude and it was just a show. But I don't really remember it. Like I don't remember like watching something and being like, oh, this is phony. Like, you know, because like I didn't care. You know what I mean? Like, and I still don't care. Like
CCZ, I knew we were kindred spirits or something, because remember that episode that we talked about, that I had nightmares when the Undertaker, I think it was SummerSlam, when he got beat by Yokozuna, he went up into the big old Titantron. Yeah. And he was like a ghost, and he was in the casket. That gave me nightmares for weeks. So right when you said that,
you're older than me, aren't you?
Yes,
I mean,
I
you're definitely
am
older than me, but like
39.
You're 39. Okay, I'll be 34 in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick and I are both 43, so we're the old fogies in the room.
Neither of you as old as Timothy Reed.
So
no.
So you're talking your 9-year-old self and fearing the Undertaker coming out of the TV to choke you out. 5? Okay.
5.
Okay. So I
want to make that
give us a show. What's your earliest wrestling show that you remember watching?
So hold on, that's my ride.
Running by Big Papa Pump.
So I remember when I'm not sure when I started watching it on TV. I remember going to there was this place in Dubuque called Fagan's, that and then also it was like shoe polish and video rental, and like I think they sold trading cards or something. But I remember going there like every weekend with my grandparents or with my parents and renting the VHS tapes. And so I watched a lot of old stuff from the very beginning. So I was probably, I want to say it was probably around 94, 95 when I remember first watching like Raw and Nitro. Like if my parents happened to realize it was on and I was like rowdy somewhere. Not that I was ever really rowdy, but like they knew it was on and I figured out it was on, like they would let me watch it. But I don't remember like having when I had a firm enough grasp of time that I knew like, oh, this is the time wrestling is on and I'm allowed to be up at this time and going to watch it. So I remember watching WrestleMania 8 a lot for some reason. That was one I really liked. I feel like I rented that tape a lot. But and then probably like the point where I'd watch the pay-per-views. My dad got me on Sundays, and he had a black box, so we'd watch pay-per-views. And
Yeah,
the first one I really remember watching was WrestleMania 10 with Brett and Owen, and then Brett and Yokozuna. So those are some of my early distinct memories.
Of course, WrestleMania 10, the classic ladder match between Michaels and Razor as well.
Oh yeah, obviously, yes.
That's one of my all-time favorites right there.
It's a great one for sure. Brett and Owen, I feel like is the first really like story I remember, like the brother versus brother, like just kind of resonating. Which is funny because like listening to the podcasts and stuff, and I think you guys are like ad-free show guys. You like that stuff, but hearing Bruce talk about like how Vince didn't want to do that because brothers don't fight. Brothers,
no,
that's not
never.
Brothers can't fight. Like, and so that being like one of the most memorable stories, I think, of all time. And then so that summer, so I was 4 at WrestleMania 10. And then I remember that summer for my 5th birthday, my grandparents were gonna let me go to a wrestling show. That was gonna be my 5th birthday present. And my choices were Clash of the Champions, Cedar Rapids, or SummerSlam in Chicago, because they were both in August. And those were my choices for little 5-year-old Alex McCarthy. And now bear in mind, I wasn't watching a lot of live wrestling at that point. I've told this story. Angle, you look like you've heard this story before.
Yes, sir.
I haven't watched a lot of live wrestling at this point, so I've watched a lot of old tapes. And I'm 5 years old, so I was like, I have to go see Hulk Hogan. And so we went to Clash of the Champions, and that was the infamous like Nancy Kerrigan angle.
Yep.
I just listened to Nancy Kerrigan on a podcast.
Oh.
Just an odd connection that I made. She was on Pod Meets World. Okay, you're gonna have to reel me back in, or I'm gonna go off on rabbit hole tangents.
No, but it's okay. We can go off the rails all you want, Mr. McCarthy.
All right. Well,
the subtitle of this show is Tangent Heaven.
Okay.
Card subject to change. Tangent Heaven.
But if you look at that card of that clash that I went to, Antonio Inoki's last match in the United States against Steven Regal, Ricky Steamboat versus Steve Austin, Ricky Steamboat's last match of his active career against Steve Austin, because that's where he won the U.S. title, and then and then somehow Jim Duggan ended up with it. I'm trying to think, but if you look at that card, if you pull it up, it's just an insane, like, almost everybody on that card is Hall of Famers except the Nasty Boys, and deservingly so. And so a really great card. Probably didn't appreciate it at the time as a 5-year-old. And then I remember a couple weeks later watching SummerSlam, Brett and Owen in the cage, Undertaker versus Undertaker. And the whole time my dad's friend, who is like at least in his mid to late 20s, is sitting there, maybe his early 20s. And he's going, dude, you could have been at this? What were you thinking? Just giving me the most crap the entire time because I picked Clash of the Champions over SummerSlam. So.
And now, see, I love hearing that story because Alex, you used to have a podcast of your own with none other than Timothy Regal. So I know this story. I know probably a lot of stories that you're probably likely going to tell tonight, which I love hearing them.
Because you're the only person that listened to our podcast.
No. I would say there's more than just me listening.
Matt Ritter. Okay.
There you go, Matt Ritter.
The other two.
Now, you did have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that. What got you into like wrestling podcasts. Like I know you said something about the all ad-free shows. There you go, ad-free shows. What kind of got you into those podcasts?
Yeah, so I guess I started so I was when I was in college was when Dave Lagana first had the Creative Has Nothing for You podcasts, which is like one of the it's like Colt Cabana and Dave Lagana were like the pioneers of pro wrestling podcasts, and this was in like 2010, 11, 12.
Mm-hmm.
Around that time.
Yeah.
And I was in college and I was a double major in English and creative writing, and I was at the time a double minor in theater and Spanish. And I was debating, do I want to pursue my dream to be a professional wrestling writer, or do I want to have a much better chance of not ending up begging on the streets and still get to have a fulfilling life and become a teacher? And obviously because it'd be really cool if I was got to live my dream, but there's just a high chance of, there's only so many of those jobs. And I played it safe, and I don't regret that. I love my life. I'm very happy I get to do all of the things, and we'll get into that more. But I was super into those podcasts because it was all ex-WWE writers. And so I was really pretty obsessed with that. And then when I moved to the Quad Cities in 2014, I was, living by myself, didn't really know anybody. So I kind of was getting super back into wrestling because it was just something to do. The network was about, a year old at that point, less than a year old at that point. So I was just watching a ton of wrestling, consuming as much wrestling content as I could. I think I'd gotten back into e-fetting. Like I was just filling my time with wrestling however I could. And I happened to find the Pro Wrestling Iowa podcast, which was a couple guys in Des Moines who covered all independent wrestling in the state of Iowa. And they talked about IPW and 3XW and occasionally Revolver when they came to town. And I was like, that's not no, there's definitely more wrestling in Iowa. And so I messaged them. I was like, why are you guys not covering SCW? And at that point, I think I had maybe been to 2 SCW shows, and I wasn't I knew it was a thing, but I just wasn't. I was still pretty active in theater, so I wasn't making it a priority to know when all the shows were every month. And so I messaged them. I was like, why are you guys not covering SCW? And so they ended up saying hey, we're in Des Moines, Davenport or at Walcott is a 2.5 hour drive. It's just not feasible for us to cover it. And they're like, but if you want to do a write-up, we'll put it on our website. So I started doing, I wouldn't call them reviews, but I guess reports on the SCW shows and writing them and using my creative writing major to actually, that was the first time I was using my creative writing major for anything, because I was writing about wrestling, which I obviously loved, and they were putting them on their website. And then they ended up asking me to be a guest on the podcast once, and then I became a regular part of the podcast. You guys still there?
I'm here. We're good.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, my earbuds did a weird thing. Started writing about the show, started doing the podcast, and then I figured out that Regal, the commentator for SCW, was the moonsault guy. And we and that was and I was fooled into thinking that I could, ride on his coattails to get into pro wrestling fame. So I was like, hey, we should do a podcast together, because at the time they were trying to turn the Pro Wrestling Iowa podcast into the Pro Wrestling Iowa podcast network. So they were trying to have all of these shows. So I did a show with Regal, Off the Chest of Timothy Regal, which we did pretty consistently for 2 or 3 years. And then my wife had a podcast for a while with Kat Carter, and originally some of our other friends were on it. It was an all-female podcast called Bells in a Cell. And there was a couple other shows on the network, but it was just really fun, and we were doing wrestling podcasting. And then when I was really starting to get deep into this, transitions into, I think I'm still on your first question, CZ, so I apologize. But,
No, you're more than fine.
I'm still on the first question.
That's fine.
I love it.
So I was like, man, it'd be really cool if there was wrestling in Dubuque, because that was my, my hometown, and I had been to some shows in that for a promotion that I won't name, and I won't name names, that ran in Dubuque for a while when I was in late high school, early college, and I almost was gonna pay them to train me, and thank God I didn't. Anyways, so I wanted to bring indie wrestling back to Dubuque. And so I was at the time thinking, I believe I just started dating Margaret. So I wasn't like in a super committed relationship. I was basically single. I was basically just bought my house. Like, I had a little bit of money, and I was like, I emailed Merrick Brave and said, I want to meet with you and see what it would take to start my own wrestling promotion. And we got talking, and it turned into maybe we could run SCW shows in Dubuque. And then we did the first SCW show in Dubuque. We got scheduled. I helped him find a building. I helped him find some sponsors, and then I said, I just want to do commentary on the first show. That's all I want in return for helping out with this stuff. And so I did commentary on the first show, and then what was that? And then it's my earbuds. My earbuds just said goodbye. Oh, because they just died. They must have died. So is my sound real bad now?
No, you're good.
No,
You
I
guys hear
can. You
yourselves?
sound good.
You sound
Okay.
You sound great.
Okay. So where was I? Oh, then the ring announcer needed to miss the next show. I took his place. The show after that, they texted me and said, hey, come to the call ballroom, bring your suit. I ended up doing commentary for half of that show. The second show I ever did commentary on, I got to call an X-Pac match. So I don't think a lot of people get to say that, because it was a ballroom show. And from there, it was just kind of like, I just kind of was in the right place at the right time, and proved myself to be a little useful, and kind of got lucky.
So, Alex, I kind of want to go back to a couple things you said. I want to continue on your wrestling journey, but before we do that, I'm feeling a lot of parallels with you in my life, because when I went to college, I majored in English. I've got a minor in writing. I'm not doing a damn thing with either of those. But you mentioned e-fetting.
Oh.
And that is something I was huge into. For those who don't know, tell us what e-fetting is.
So e-fetting is pretty much it is it's on our message board, and you create characters, you come up with all of their stats, and then a card will be announced for the show, whose character is facing who, and you basically write out your promos, which are like your promos for the match, and then the whoever, the board or the Fed head or whomever, judges the promos, and basically whoever writes better promos promoting the match is the winner. So I did that I probably started that in like 6th grade, and then did it off and on through college, and did it a little bit when I first came back here, just because I still am Facebook friends with my eFed community. I still talk to them. Like, we still stay in touch. And so that's something that I did off and on for a long time.
I have a couple of really good friends that came out of my e-fetting days. I'm curious now, since we're down this rabbit hole. Who were you? What was your persona in your e-fetting days? Did you have a wrestler, or were you just kind of running the show?
Both. I mean, I want to say I probably had north of 20 characters, because anytime I had like some of my staples, and I had like a whole little like extended universe, because at the same time, like when I'm in junior high, early high school, I'm studying like wrestling history and all of the wrestling families, and reading every wrestling book I can get my hands on. So I'm starting to create like my own little like parallel wrestling universe that I kind of wrote out, and which is super nerdy, and I recognize that, but I feel like this is a safe space for that. Kind of.
We're safe here.
It is. It very much is.
And so, but yeah, I had a lot of characters. The one that I probably got the farthest and was most consistent with was his name was Tommy Griffin, and he was like past his prime and kind of a drunk, and was just kept like wouldn't quit because he basically had given his whole life to wrestling, and he basically said it's too late to do anything else now. And so that was the one that I kind of stuck with the longest. And his character rep when it started was Test, but then after Test passed away, I think I changed it to Barry Windham.
That's awesome. When I was doing the e-fetting, I was more on the writing side of the shows, judging the matches. I had a couple characters, but I couldn't do more than 2 because I was just so swamped with everything else. But thank you for going down that rabbit hole with me.
At the same time. Sorry.
No, I appreciate you going down that rabbit hole with me because that just is nostalgia for me. I know it's pretty nerdy, like you said, but I don't think either of these 2 boys have done any e-fetting. That's why I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
What are you talking about?
No, that's right.
I did an e-fed
You were with me, Nick.
I did an e-fed with you.
Yeah. My brain doesn't work half the time, Nick. Come on, you know this.
Yes, I did. When you said you had north of 20 characters, I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Never at the same time. They were never active at the same time.
But still, I had one, and it was hard enough for me to write the promos and do all the stuff with that. So,
but I also I love to write. I was writing before I knew to write it down, and that's probably storytelling is probably my biggest passion in life because it's something that translates through all of my interests. And I actually, since I've worked at junior theater now since 2016. Eventful year in my life, 2016. Got involved in podcasting, got involved in wrestling, bought my house, met my wife, started working at junior theater. It was a good year for me.
Very good year.
But I write all of my own scripts at junior theater now. Everything for all my classes that I've written over 60 short plays, and I write a lot of stuff that I direct my students in at the Creative Arts Academy as well, just because it's easier than paying rights. And I enjoy writing, so it gives me the opportunity to have an outlet and a place to get to write and direct my own stuff. So.
That is awesome. And like I said, I feel a lot of parallels between you and me because I used to write a lot of fiction. I have fallen out of it, and it's my own fault. But that's awesome. You're doing what. Help me out, guys. I lost my train of thought.
The only
you are using your passion. You are getting to do your passion and do it in daily and productively. You talk about writing, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Give me, look at some of the worst storylines or the worst runs in history where it could have been saved by writing. It wasn't anything that the wrestlers, the performers did wrong, but it could have been something that the writing wasn't good. Can Alex McCarthy jump in that time machine and take us to a storyline that he could have saved and it would have made the storyline a lot better?
Put me on the spot, man. I've done this.
I know, but
now you're putting me on the spot.
Hey, I'm sorry.
That's what we do here. We put people on the spot.
Yeah.
We ask the hard hitting questions here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think I did earlier, ironically, that I'm gonna go back to is I did for a competition on a wrestling forum once rebook WrestleMania 9 because it was one of those ones where it was like it could have been different or better. And I think
we were talking about with WrestleMania 9, it's often thought of as one of the quote unquote worst. But if you put it in right now, I'd sit and watch the whole thing because it's a spectacle. But go ahead. When I love WrestleMania 9, so when you said that, it kind of perked me up a little bit.
So what I did, and I remember what I did was I pulled the trigger and I decided to get a main event run out of Jerry Lawler, just right off the bat, and main event WrestleMania 9 with Hogan and Lawler, and then I think I Brett and Yoko a number 1 contenders match, so that we could avoid that awkward situation where Hogan randomly beats Yoko in 2 minutes or whatever for no reason, because that was not reminiscent of the new generation.
So my big question there, would you still have Bobby Heenan coming out backwards on a camel?
Obviously. That was the one thing that got right. That wasn't the only thing that got right. I think I also had The Undertaker against Razor Ramon, which would have been a badass match. Scott
Yes, that would have been.
That would have been a badass match.
Yeah.
Instead, we got Undertaker's only, it was his WrestleMania only DQ WrestleMania win. Everything else was by pin.
Clean finish.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that right?
I like that. You would switch WrestleMania 9 around. Anything else pop out of your mind that man, I could change that and make that work?
I mean, I will say, okay, it's real easy to play fantasy booker, to play armchair booker.
Yeah.
You don't have to deal with the money. You don't have to deal with the personalities. You don't have to deal with everything like that. So I'm hesitant to not put myself in that context. Because it's, you know what I mean? It's easy. Oh, okay. So Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell for the WWF title, where you don't want your new monster heel to lose and you don't want to take the title off Rollins. Here's the solution: don't book the match. Don't book the match. If you don't have a finish, don't book the match.
Simple as that.
Something else. Have them face other people. If you don't want either of them to lose and you don't want either of them to win, don't book the match.
Exactly.
There was one solution to that situation, and it was don't put yourself in that situation. Don't put yourself in a no-win situation. So that would be
you took that right out of my mouth.
So oftentimes we hear book it. I think Alex McCarthy's one-liner now is don't book the match.
Don't book it. Don't book it.
Don't book the match.
Don't put yourself in a no-win situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, could the writing of Alex McCarthy saved Lex and the Lex Express?
No.
No, just right away. No.
And I appreciate your honesty. Instead of trying to spin it like you could say that, because I don't know if anybody can.
Maybe, if they didn't want to put the title on him, don't book the match. But I don't think Lex
don't book the match.
Don't book the match. Man, he was having a pretty decent run as a heel too, and then they just forced him as a baby face, and they could have just not booked the match. They didn't want to take the title off Yoko. It's fine. I'm not used to having to pay attention to the video. I said it earlier.
CZ, look out. You're going to get run over by a non-finish. Look out.
Run over by the Lex Express.
Don't worry, you've got till 10.
For those of you who are not watching on Facebook,
for those who are listening and it's after the fact, I have made my background the Lex Express, which the only reason it is in StreamYard with my video is because that was the joke I made when Cody lost to Roman back at WrestleMania. But it seemed fitting. I'm glad I had it. Perfect.
What's that?
I don't disagree.
I don't
with that
either.
finish.
I don't either.
Okay.
You don't disagree with the finish?
Nope.
Oh, I loved it.
I was fine with it.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. Because at 40, when he wins, it's going to be even better.
Nope. It's Jay.
Or is it Solo?
No, maybe Solo, but
I know
think it's gotta be
we
Jay.
had this talk about a couple months
We
ago.
had this conversation.
We did,
about
and
five.
I think it has to be Jay. And you were saying that then, and I think it does now. I just can't wait to see how everything pans out with
I
this.
also
Where Solo adds up, and
I also think it doesn't mean a darn thing because they got that new belt. That cheapens it a lot. They were doing fine. They didn't need to make a second title. It's a cool belt, though.
It is a cool looking belt. It is a cool looking belt, but they booked themselves into a corner when they threw both belts on them and made him mostly part-time. I mean, I don't think he's got a title defense set now until maybe SummerSlam.
The weird thing to me was they were doing such a good job of elevating the IC and US titles and making them feel like main events. And they had the tag titles main event mania. You could very easily just make all of your titles important instead of making a new title that makes all of the other titles less important.
I agree. So now with you saying that about Jay winning the title, that you think Jay will win the title off WrestleMania 40, then what happens with Cody Rhodes in your opinion? Now that he's got this Brock Lesnar thing going, what do you see that in your fantasy booking armchair quarterback? What do you see happening with Cody Rhodes?
I mean, maybe. If you really want to stretch this out, you could, not now, but like after he goes through Brock and maybe goes through maybe Judgment Day or something. And maybe at that point it would be time for a heel turn, kind of go with the, the early babyface Jeff Jarrett, where he's just kind of losing his mind.
Ooh.
Because he can't get it, and it just drives him mad. Becomes maybe going back to the Codelander thing that he was doing in AEW, where he unintentionally turned himself heel by being such an obnoxious, unwatchable, unrelatable babyface.
I think I like that Cody Rhodes.
What's that?
I like that Cody Rhodes when he was just obnoxious.
I did too, as long as you acknowledge that it's not a baby. He wasn't a baby.
Right. Yeah. Put it over the top and not to where it's just normal every day.
Right. So, I mean, maybe go the heel route for a while and then he can finally get his redemption. I think he does. I mean, he's just so much more interesting chasing than I think he would be as champion.
Yes. Yep. You're right. He's a better chaser than a champion.
Just like his dad was.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't compare him to
now,
his dad a lot.
Alex, I want to.
Yeah, he's a little bit better looking than his dad.
Agree to disagree.
Alex, I want to take a step back here. We were talking. Nick asked you to take a bad wrestling situation and turn it good. I want you to take something that you consider to be a good storyline and tweak it a little bit to make it great. Is there a storyline that you would have changed that was good for its time, but it could have been better if?
Oh, yep. Actually, NWO.
No, New World Order.
Yes, thank you. I would have not had Dusty join the NWO, and instead I would have had him rally the WCW side as like a babyface GM type manager to cut promos against Bischoff, rally WCW and be the face authority of WCW instead of JJ Dillon. Because imagine Dusty rallying the War Games against the NWO. Imagine him going head to head on the mic with Eric Bischoff as the babyface GM, and then who can occasionally get in there and a little bit, give him a little something, baby, if you will, like a little flip flop and fly, American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, if you will, like give him a little, drop some elbows.
Maybe get himself a little plunder.
Yeah. Yes, but
I'm glad Dusty Rhodes made an appearance on this podcast. He just came down from heaven.
I am too.
Eggo, you thought I was going to get through a podcast without pulling out my Dusty Rhodes impression.
That's right.
Oh, shoot.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you were very quick to answer
man.
that. Not have Dusty in the NWO. All right, go to WWF or WWE side.
Oh shoot. Oh, you guys need to send me the questions in advance.
Oh no, hey, I just made it off the top of my head. I know what I would change. I'll give you an example. I never would have had Stone Cold shake McMahon's hand at the end of WrestleMania 15.
Okay, but then you would have never got those segments with Kurt Angle in the office with him playing guitar.
I know.
That stuff was great. I'm not willing to sacrifice
I know,
that.
I know, but that was the ultimate man versus the authority, and then for him to do that was kind of.
But where else was there to go with it, dude? It wasn't the right call, but we got some good stuff out of it.
We did. Oh, I know. I was going to make something greater and just not even have that handshake happen. They could have done it on Raw the next night.
Yeah. Well, but gosh, I'm trying to think of something.
We don't write these questions down. We'd send them to you, but we don't write these down, Alex.
Yeah, the Dusty thing is what my head immediately came to. I feel like there was something good that could have been better. I'm trying to think. What are like maybe putting the title on Owen at some point.
Okay.
Having him beat Brett for the title.
Yes.
But that would have been just so. I think that would have just been so impossible at that time. You know what I mean? Like Owen was just too small, bigger than half of the guys that have held the title in the last 10 years. But
right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Vince's affinity with heavyweights and big guys. I mean, so many of the smaller guys have been been cast aside, not even thought about. But that's just okay. I'll ask even an easier question. Last good wrestling book.
Last what? Last wrestling
good wrestling book you read.
I haven't finished it because I don't read during the school year, but I'm about halfway through Brian Gewertz's book, which has been really good and really funny. He was the head writer of Raw for like 10 years. And I'm in the middle of his book and I haven't finished it. And I actually got the WWE cookbook for Christmas.
Ooh.
Which I have not made anything out of it yet, but I do like to thumb through it at the ridiculous recipe names.
I was going to say, give us an example of a yeah.
Throw us some.
Let's hear it.
Gosh, I almost want to just go get it. But and of course it's not on the bookshelf.
Dusty Rhodes biscuits and gravy.
But yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like Nikki Brie cheese and crackers or something like.
Whoa.
Like it's stuff like that.
Is there the Rock's peanut butter pie?
There is a rock pie of some kind in there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's peanut butter.
But the Rock likes all kinds of pie. So.
But yeah, no, I did get that for Christmas because my wife told my sister-in-law to get me something wrestling related or a cookbook because I've been really like trying to challenge myself to pick up a little bit of cooking, and my sister-in-law was like, or why not both?
Both. Best of both worlds.
Both.
Why not both?
Yep. So yeah.
Okay, hey, you're cooking a meal and you're having 4 wrestling people over for dinner. Any 4 living or dead.
Oh, easy.
What are you cooking? And who are you
What am
having?
I cooking?
Yep.
Oh.
And who are you having?
I was gonna tell you the people.
You said you're into cooking.
We want both. We want both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's the best thing I make? I'll probably make chili because I think I make good chili. But it's without question Bobby Heenan, Dusty Rhodes, Paul Heyman, Mick Foley.
Oh,
all right.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Talk about the 4. You answered that pretty fast and pretty easy. I mean, clear cut. Why those 4? I know
Bobby
those.
Heenan.
I know why, but
Sure. Bobby Heenan is my favorite wrestling personality performer of all time. I think he is just incredibly witty, hilarious. I mean, everything that can be said about Bobby Heenan has been said about Bobby Heenan. I also have an affinity of like people who started out in the Midwest, because like I'm a Midwest boy. We've had this conversation before, Nick, about the AWA and stuff like that.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to probably get a phone charger at some point if we keep going, which is fine. But let's see, Dusty, because I think he has fingerprint. One of the greatest bookers of all time, has fingerprints on so many different talents in his second half of his career. One of my favorite, Dusty and Bob, my favorite. Oh, this is a controversial opinion, I feel like, but my favorite commentary team of all time is Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Dusty Rhodes. That mid-90s WCW pay-per-view crew was top-notch, in my opinion. I love those 3. And I know and Gorilla and Bobby being my second favorite team. And I thought of an underrated commentary team, but I won't get into it right now. Because I'm talking about something else. The next person I think I said was Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, I think, just again, a brilliant booker, brilliant commentator, brilliant promoter. Are you noticing a theme here?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered, to jump back to Bobby for a second.
Yeah.
I always wondered what Bobby would have been like as a booker. Like if Bobby had been the booker somewhere, which I don't think he ever was.
I don't think so.
I'm very curious what Bobby would have done in a creative role, because I think he was so witty and so brilliant. And sometimes that doesn't translate to being able to produce for other people or create for other people. Sometimes you just, are able to react to things and be witty and be expressive, and you can't do it for other people. But I think I'd be curious to see what he came up with if Bobby Heenan had the book somewhere at some point.
And then Mick Foley was the last one you mentioned.
Mick Foley, yeah. Just like, he didn't look like a wrestler, and as a kid who grew up never really looking like a wrestler, and just able to use his passion and his talking ability, and he was a writer, so like I related to Mick Foley in a lot of ways. And I never really like recorded anything or did anything organized, but I did some trampoline wrestling with my friends when I was in like late elementary school, early junior high. And so just was inspired by Mick Foley. Paul Heyman, also just his ability. I think I already talked about Paul, but I didn't finish. Like what Paul's talent was and what makes Paul one of the greats was his ability to find a role for every person on his roster to shine in based on their abilities.
Yep.
He didn't have to have the best cast. His talent was taking the cast he had and creating a role for them in which they would shine. And that is what made Paul stand out, because ECW never had, the best roster. They had a great roster, but he was able to identify what each person on that roster did well and give them an avenue to shine. And I think that is what makes him special as a wrestling creator.
That's brilliant. I love it. So, Alex, I know your phone is kind of winding down a little bit here. Let's draw some battle lines, pun intended, and let's talk about SCW before you take off.
Yeah, SCWPro this Saturday night at the Bluegrass Community Club, Bluegrass, Iowa. We are not going to be inside the community club. We're going to be doing an outdoor show on the basketball courts. 4 huge matches announced. We got those real nice moving graphics.
Those are sweet, by the way.
Pretty sweet. Yeah.
By the way, as a production mark and loving the old graphics, like, by the way, I'm watching 96 King of the Ring lead up and pay-per-view right now. I love old graphics or any kind of graphics. And now that you guys got those moving graphics, they're tight. They're tight.
They're pretty sweet. Yep. We got a good friend of mine, the Cornbelt Cowboy, One Call Manders, who I, go way back with, making his return to take on the Iceberg, Dion Roosman. It's been announced all 3 members of Infamy will be in singles action. Iceberg getting one-on-one with Manders. A lot of people don't know this. They tagged for a little bit before Infamy was a thing. They were in the same Black and Brave class, so they know each other very well. Class 8, which is arguably one of the greatest Black and Brave classes of all time. When you look at just who was in it, also in that class, Valentina Loca, Jared Thumb, Robin Steele, a lot of some people that aren't around anymore, but they just aren't wrestling anymore. But a lot of great people in that class. So they're going to be going head to head. The 6-person tag, Kai McKenna teaming up with the SCWPro Tag Team Champions, Merrick Brave and Mason Beck, taking on Blair Onyx, MFG, and Nico Klein, the Partners in Rhyme. Partners in Rhyme not happy that they lost their tag titles. Will certainly be looking for revenge. And one thing that I think of Kai McKenna, who's also, I would say, a pretty good friend of mine, one thing that's just really cool for her is how many of these people will never get to team with their coach, and she gets to be on a team with Merrick Brave, with her trainer. I think that'll be a really special night for her, and that'll be a really special match. Should be really exciting. And then before that, Rip Studwell and James Thomas going one-on-one. It was announced on social media, I believe, Friday night during SmackDown.
Can't wait.
Those two have been on losing streaks since Connor Braxton dumped them a while back in January. So neither of them have won a match in SCWPro since. So there's 2 people in that equation, and my math isn't my best subject, but I'm thinking somebody's losing streak might end this Saturday night.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
That's only if you're officiating the match, Stripes.
Hey, whoa.
If Stripes officiates that match, we know what's going on here.
But and then of course the SCWPro Championship match, the God father, the Godfather Joe Asa, making a challenge for JT Energy's SCWPro Championship, and first time meeting for these two, Class 5 and Class 6 of Black and Brave respectively. They've been around for a long time. They both have a lot of experience. Joe Asa, in my opinion, has to be in the conversation, if not the conversation, of one of the best wrestlers in SCWPro to never hold the SCWPro Championship. Just when you look at the longevity and the accomplishments and the main events that he had and his success with Infamy, he held the QC Cup, Infamy held the tag titles, and I think, Joe Asa would love to add that SCWPro Heavyweight Championship to his collection, and it would really then stir up a new conversation of who is the greatest SCWPro person to never hold that title. But it's going to be a great time. $10. Doing something different. We're going to be on the basketball courts. It's going to be an outdoor show. It's going to be a good time. But and I was actually,
I have heard that you're supposed to bring your own lawn chair, correct?
Don't need to for this one. You can if you want. We're going to have bleachers and chairs set up.
Excellent.
But you can also bring your own chairs, I believe. We're gonna have the bleachers that were inside for Epic are gonna be set up outside, and then also we'll have some chairs available. But I believe you can also bring your own chairs if you want to have your own chairs. And I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be our first time doing the outdoor setup, but I'm excited. Outdoor shows just have a different energy. They just have a different vibe. They're so much fun. And I don't think this one will be any different. I mean, if you have not been to a live SCWPro event this Saturday night, going to be a great opportunity. Bring the whole family out, family-friendly event, only $10. And it's going to be a good time.
Well, it's going to be a good time because we know we are going to be welcomed by the one and only Alex McCarthy, who sets the stage for the SCWPro show on Saturday night. A couple more questions here, and we'll wrap up. Don't want to hold you any longer, Alex.
Oh, I don't mind.
What still makes you get excited when you're out there, when you come to a show? Being a part of it, not as a fan, but being a part of it. What excites you? What's still like, man, that was cool, or this is why I do it.
This is gonna sound cheesy.
No, not at all. Hey, we're all booger-eating wrestling fans here. Nothing's cheesy.
It's the fans.
Yeah.
Like hearing what they react to, watching them lose their shit. Like if you're watching me during a show, I spend just as much time watching the fans react as I do watching the wrestlers. And I always try to, like, if I see people that I don't recognize that are new fans or first time fans, I try to watch them and see their reaction and watch what they're reacting to. Like, honestly, sometimes guys will be like, oh, what did you think of my match? And I was like, I was watching the fans. Like, here's what they reacted to, though. So that's good. Like, but yeah, just like, and then just like watching the puzzle pieces come together, like, and from a storytelling standpoint. Like just watching things click and watching things get delivered the way you envision them when you find out when they're being put together.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I've got one more thing. I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to put your announcer hat on, and I want you to announce the winner of this podcast. It doesn't have to be any one of us.
I see Angle a lot. I think Bull could beat me up. Pretty tall. I really like CZ. Not that I don't like the other two, but.
And I want you to do it in your announcer voice. Come on.
You just made me talk for an hour straight first.
That's the kind of asshole I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner and still card subject to change podcast champion, Alex McCarthy.
Oh!
Yes!
He threw the swerve!
Yes. I love it.
Boy.
I want a little something to watch this week, Alex, before next weekend's big monumental Memorial Day wrestling weekend. Give me some old AWA show to watch. You're an AWA. That's kind of your guilty pleasure. You like it?
Yeah. Like, well, I don't even know what's on the network anymore.
Yeah. It's
on Peacock. There's not a lot of choices out there on Peacock. Super Clash 3.
Yeah.
Nick. Yeah.
It's one of my all-time favorites, man.
You just
just tripped his trigger.
It's one of my all-time favorite shows.
It's probably like of the shows that are on Peacock, it's probably the best AWA show that's on Peacock.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Like
what I've seen, but
you've
seen more than I have.
Stuff, what?
You've seen more of the AWA side of things than I have, but I'll agree with you. That's a fun show.
I think of what they have on Peacock, that's one of the best ones.
Right.
And that you can't go wrong with like the old like AWA on ESPN. Those are fun to watch.
They are. They are fun to watch.
Because I used to have ESPN Classics, and they would air reruns of that on ESPN Classics. Because like the AWA was pretty much dead by the time I was old enough to watch it. I think it was still technically alive when I was born, but not much.
It was around, but I didn't know really about it till after it was gone. Yeah. So,
and we just look at who came from the AWA.
No, I know.
And then like, and it's like,
and it's kind of one of the last territories, So
yeah,
it going from territories to what we know as sports entertainment and how wrestling is today. It's just, I don't know. I like reading about the old stuff like that in the AWA. I don't know a lot about, so I'm definitely gonna watch more of that stuff for sure.
Have you seen the Wrestle Rock Rumble?
Yes, I have.
Okay. If you haven't seen the Wrestle Rock Rumble, put that in your
I have not seen it.
have
I have
it?
not seen it. No.
Oh,
Stripes,
Homework.
CZ, you got to get immediately
got some
after this
homework.
show. Immediately. Wrestle
and then,
Rock.
And then
Yes.
after you watch the Wrestle Rock Rumble, watch Jim Cornette watching the Wrestle Rock Rumble, because that's the thing that exists. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen
No.
that one, but I will.
Everybody's got homework. Oh, I'm at school already.
Isn't your school year almost over? It's finals week, and you're giving us all this
days.
homework.
8 days.
8 days?
8 days. 8 school days. But well, thanks for having
Those
me on.
final
guys.
essays in, boys.
Thank you for coming on the show
Absolutely.
tonight. I am looking forward to next Saturday night for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously get to
Gonna
catch
be a
up with
great
Alex, but it's gonna be a fun card. I'm looking forward to it. That's of all the shows on Saturday or next weekend. I mean, there's some big shows, don't get me wrong, but I got Saturday night circled. Really looking forward to that.
And it's an outdoor show. How
Yes.
can you beat that?
Yes.
Right, which means I'll probably be drunk. No, I'm
Yes.
just
No.
kidding. I don't know what it is about being outside, but it's
Yeah, let's hope the weather holds up. It looks like, if you look at a forecast, it looks like the weather's gonna shine down on Bluegrass Saturday night for the SCW show.
awesome.
For sure. Gentlemen, that is going to wrap things up for tonight. Go ahead, Nick.
No, you wrap it up, buddy. You got the Lex Express waiting for you.
Oh.
I'm sitting at home.
Oh, yeah. Well, next week we will be covering SCWPro Battle Lines because I believe all three of us are going to be there. We'll
be there
also be
too.
talking about the Night of Champions. Well, of course you're going to be there, Alex. You're the one who keeps the show running.
That's Afternoon of Champions.
We'll be talking about, yes, Afternoon of Champions, Double or Nothing, Battleground, the NXT show. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to be coming a little late. It's going to be on Monday or Tuesday next week. But we'll have all your coverage of all the weekend happenings next week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.